doing well on this fine Sunday morning. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kendall Kahl. I go to youth here and I attend the Salt Factory service, and I'm in Year 12 down at Endeavour College. Today I'm going to be speaking about doubting Thomas, and the verse that talks about him, which we heard earlier, the Gospel reading in John 20. Now I think the first thing that came to me when I was reading this verse is it's very prevalent that Thomas is doubtful. And he has that reputation. There's a lot of phrases going around, oh, you're a doubtful Thomas, you're a doubting Thomas kind of thing. But I actually question whether Thomas is doubtful or if he's skeptical. So I did some Googling, and it says that doubt is to call into lies or to question the truth. And skepticism is to be not easily convinced. So the first point I would like to raise is I think he gets a bit of a bad rap. I don't think he's a doubting Thomas. I just think he's a bit skeptical. Because I don't think he questioned the truth. He wanted the proof of it. And he wasn't super convinced by his friends. He didn't ask for a revelation from God, just proof that is what was happened and that Jesus did raise from the dead. It's really important also to consider in the context that this was like in the days and the weeks after Jesus' death. And so Thomas is still mourning and he's still remembering what he's lost. And he's probably like, you know what, if my friends are joking about it, it's way too soon kind of thing. So he's remembering what he's lost, but he's always been a skeptical person. We can see in John 1:16, chapter 11, John 11, verse 11 to 16, which says, after he had said this, he went to tell them, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I am going to wake him up. His disciples replied, Lord, if he sleeps, he will get better. Jesus had been speaking of his death, but his disciples thought he meant natural sleep. So when he told them plainly, Lazarus is dead, and for your sake I am glad I was not there, so that you may believe. Let us go to him. Then Thomas, also known as Didymus, said to the rest of the disciples, let us go, that we may die with him. So in this, there's a general trend going on here. Thomas is very pessimistic in disaster. In John 14, verse 2, similar thing happens. My Father's house has many rooms. If that were not so, would I have told you that I am going there to prepare a place for you? And if I go to prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you with me, so that you may also be where I am. I know the way to the place I am going. Thomas said to him, Lord, we don't know where you're going, so how can we know the way? So we see throughout the Bible and throughout the Gospel of John that Thomas is a very pessimistic person, and he really struggles to accept things without questioning them. And so he asks those questions to be sure. So it's really seen that Thomas really wants to believe. He's followed the ministry of Jesus from as early on as he could, and he's still gone when he doubted when Lazarus died. He still went with Jesus to go and see Lazarus, and he still trusts that Jesus is preparing a place for him. But he's always been doubting. But Thomas had the faith to pull through. It says in Matthew 17, it talks about faith as small as a mustard seed. And this faith as small as a mustard seed helped Thomas to pull through when he was doubting Jesus. We tend to remember people, I think people a lot, but people in the Bible for their bad things. We remember David for his sin, and we remember Jacob for stealing his brother's birthright, and Peter for denying God. And obviously we remember Thomas as a doubting person, but he hasn't always been like this. Thomas showed faith in a lot of situations. We just don't remember him for it. Thomas called out for God when he was doubting, and he wanted to know that. And so in his doubt, he calls to God, and he asks God to reveal himself. And he finds sympathy from Jesus in this. Jesus meets Thomas's request with priority and with patience. Jesus didn't rebuke Thomas or humiliate him because he knew that ultimately he would believe. He's believed every other time that he's doubted, so he knew that he'd believe again. And he wasn't met as someone with an evil heart or poor intentions, but instead he was met as just a disciple with weak faith in that moment. And Thomas replies to this with Thomas's answer to Jesus revealing himself is intimate and it's immediate. And he falls to his knees praising God. He says, "My Lord, my God." And he's actually the first person post the resurrection of Jesus to acknowledge Jesus' divinity, which is just a cool little thing to remember, that even the doubting people are the people that can have the strongest faith in God. And Thomas ultimately did emerge stronger from this. He was victorious and faithful until his death. I feel like a lot of people don't know heaps about the apostles afterwards, but Thomas actually went on to apostle in India, supposedly, where he founded churches, and he was actually killed for donating church money to charities to help people. And I think this story can really reveal to us that God has a plan and a purpose for us. And I'm sure that God didn't plan for Thomas to be doubtful, but when he found that Thomas was doubtful, he used this not bad situation, but he used this interesting situation and manipulated it for the good of Thomas. And ultimately, Thomas came out of it further. And I think this really relates to us and our relationship with God. Because if I was to go to everyone here, put your hand up if you've ever doubted your relationship with God. I'd put my hand up, and I feel like a lot of people here would put their hand up. And I don't want to ask that explicitly, because I'm sure there's people that wouldn't want to put their hand up. But I think the truth is, as Christians, we all doubt, and we're all skeptical. We all know the truth about God and the fact that Jesus died for us, but we question it. And it's so hard to not question it in this day. It's really hard to stand firm in your faith in a world with social media and families and friends that don't believe, and a society that stigmatizes religion. And so we all question our faith. It's easy to come to church every Sunday morning and be godly, but then you go out into the world, and this is something that I experience a lot, is it's so easy to come to church for me on a Sunday and then to go to school on a Monday and show my faith. And it's something that I really struggle with. But everyone here who knows that they've battled and they've questioned God's love for them and they've questioned faith, you're all still here at church on a Sunday. And that's a really cool thing, is that God turns our skepticism into belief. And he does it in ways that we don't even realize. He meets our doubt with peace, and he meets it with proof. And with this, we can all call out to him, and we can all also disciple to other people. But I think overall, it's really, really important to remember that God's going to reveal himself to us, just like he revealed himself to Thomas. So I leave you with a verse from Joshua 1:9, which says, "Be strong and courageous, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go." And as you go out into your week, remember that God's using your bad situation for good, and even